Coming up on Be Kind, Let's Rewind.
Today we are going to be talking about the best of Chris Farley from Saturday Night Live.
Sweet mother of God, what is the holdup?
And Chadwick's having a heart attack.
That makes a baker's dozen for me.
And there's no joke.
There's
it's
no
just
joke.
he's
It's
fat.
him and-
Lay off me, I'm starving.
I thought you were the law and order candidate. Holy cannoli.
He did a better Tom Arnold impression than Tom Arnold did.
He did, yeah.
And like maybe Tom went to a drug clinic, you know?
I got in the taxi and went to treatment.
Yeah.
Because that is ripped directly from Conan O'Brien when he used to play Walker, Texas Ranger clips, and he would always say that there's one clip they're not going to play, that he finally played it.
Walker told me I have AIDS.
Let's try to resurrect the corpse of this podcast.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Cue music.
Yes! Kwaki Serpiniku! Hanji! Dosei ka!
Welcome to Be Kind, Let's Rewind, the nostalgia podcast no one asked for, with your hosts, Chris, Leaf, and Chadwick.
Like people that suck toes.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Be Kind, Let's Rewind, the nostalgia podcast that no one asked for. Today, we are going to be talking about the best of Chris Farley from Saturday Night Live. Guys, it's been a little bit since we recorded. It's good to see you again. We just recently launched our Discord channel, which will start having links below in these. Please join us. We have some riveting nostalgia chats and things that are not suitable for work on there. So come join us. Drop in, say hello. We even have a section for questions if you got for us. So all that good stuff, just drop in. Leaf, I believe you're helping head up the Twitter end of that and maybe the Instagram.
Absolutely. We're kind of, it's a team effort here. All those links will be provided. We got social media, like he said, where you'll find a lot of the clips that we've edited for your enjoyment. Also bonus material that obviously we won't discuss on here on the podcast. But yeah, we had a lot of stuff going on the social media. So if you're into nostalgia, the old school 80s, 90s, obviously, and beyond, before and after, I mean, give us a follow. We would really appreciate it.
We just call that the Chadwick cut.
And if
I
you're,
think so.
and if you're behind on technology, old like me, catch us on Facebook.
There it is. Chadwick's got some Facebook. Hit up, baby.
I'm taking care of that.
There's no excuse. There's
Got
no
memes.
excuse.
We're putting
Chadwick-
putting out some original memes, and I'm
Yes, sir.
sure I'm going to regurgitate some that I've seen online because some people are okay.
Yeah. So
Can we
some
call-
of them are, whatever.
Can we call it the Shaddy cut?
Yeah, the Shaddy cut.
Shay, no.
Shaddy, no.
We'll keep it short and sweet, man. Let's head over to our... on a side note, today I just had "Get Out of the Street, You Fucking Bum" stuck in my head with no context. So
Is that just shit stuck in your head this week as well?
no, it's not. But today, actually, I found we're recording on a Tuesday, and I was like, you know what? I just want a light drink here. So I Googled that you could take black tea and mix it with whiskey. So I'm gonna give this a shot for you guys.
Let's find out the taste test here.
That's awful.
Baby.
Yeah, that's terrible. So don't do that.
Why would you try that?
Wait a minute. Did you add like any sugar or a simple syrup to it or anything?
Nope. Just straight black
Just
tea and whiskey.
raw?
Guess what? It's bad. It's really bad. But you know what? I'm gonna finish it and it's got booze in it. So, Leaf, what do you got over there?
Like a waste of whiskey.
I'm not going to do that. So I'm having a little bit of Appleton Estate of rum. It is the 4th of July is rapidly approaching here as of recording. And you know what? I'm about out of it. So to keep it extra classy, you're going to chase it with a little bit of a Voodoo Ranger juice force, baby.
Close and Appleton. Shadwick, what do you got there, brother?
Well, I've been real lazy about buying new booze because I don't know. It's not been at the store, so I'm still rocking this Chris Stapleton Traveler.
Hey, man, you're supporting him. It's a solid whiskey. It's not in black tea,
and it did have a little ice in it. But once again, we started late tonight because of because of Leaf. It's like, dude, I want to know, do you have technical difficulties on other days, or is it just five?
Yes.
Is it always just 5 minutes before we start to record?
Yes. Not to plug my gaming stream, which we will not do. They call it the tech curse. That is literally what they call it. Because I always have problems. No, it's real, dude. Wait till you get around me. All of my nerd friends, all the tech friends.
It's true, man. Because in FNA we just called it the Leaf curse.
Yes.
Leaf is the only man that I've known that was actually late to a practice that was held at his house.
It's true, Sandy.
Well, in his
kept making the cupcakes.
In his defense, it was upstairs.
It was upstairs.
They don't ever mention that one.
No, they don't ever mention that, man. So, all right, dudes, let's get over to our topic. This one is a fun one because I just recently finished the Chris Farley book. I believe it's called The Chris Farley Show, which kind of inspired me to suggest this. We're just going to go through his best of.
He did the audiobook version on there, right?
He did not. But I'll tell you this. Out of the fucking gate, guys. His brothers helped write this book, and if you guys fucking did to me what his brothers did to him with the brutal honesty in this book, I will come back and fucking haunt you.
No, it's like all they tell.
Oh, dude, yeah. And I mean, and you, I don't know. I guess maybe yes.
Let's not bring it down, though.
I'm not going to bring it down. I'm just saying, I will. If you do this to me, if you're like, yeah, remember when Chris used to get so drunk that he would prank himself and try to sleep in the back of people's pickup trucks and shit, then I'd be like, yeah, maybe don't put that in a book.
I'm witness to that.
Just shit off the roof of movie theaters.
Maybe don't tell people I did that. Like,
listen, we won't have to because we're going to literally tell everything. And viewers, don't worry, you're going to hear it all. But you have to subscribe and pay us more
You'll be
money.
like, hey, you remember that one time Chris put his dirty shoe on an ice bin at a movie theater and then served ice to customers?
Allegedly, that's ignorant.
And we just lost 10 subscribers off the rip.
Hey, if you're not a real one, you're not with us for the right reasons. So, Leaf, man, kick us off with some boring ass facts here on Mr. Farley.
We're going to be reviewing the best of SNL. Chris Farley, you guys can watch that.
God
I believe it's on. I believe it's on Paramount Plus. Chris can correct me once he stops squanching his face. Right?
It's on Peacock, but yes,
it's on Peacock. You can watch it. So the legend
is that
lady.
Are you like a Pulp Fiction? She's like,
I said, goddamn.
Yeah, it's doing the trick, boys. It's doing the trick.
The legend, you and I, all of us know him. You all love him. I don't know a single hater on the planet except for maybe his brothers, according to Chris. Christopher Crosby Farley, aka Chris Farley, born in Madison, Wisconsin on February 15th, 1964. He, of course, was an American comedian and actor known for his loud, energetic, comedic style, and was a member of Chicago's Second City Theater. And for those of you who know, that's generally where many of the Saturday Night Live cast get their start. They recruited from these improv people.
I was gonna say it's basically like a school for people that want to do sketch comedy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much.
He talked about it because he moved. Like you mentioned, he's from Madison, so he moved to Chicago for the sole purpose of, hey, I think
that Bears.
Yeah, Bears. So he went to He went to college, I believe, and then went to Chicago to try to give it a shot. And Chadwick's having a heart attack.
How many heart attacks is that?
That makes a baker's dozen.
But
Just
so,
legendary.
One of the stories of the book was him and his friend, they went they're outside Second City. And of course it's like, I don't know, I had this when I was a kid and I'd go to like wrestling shows and shit when I was like 17 or 18. And he said, you know, in the back of their mind,
getting all the girls.
Yeah, he was like, back in the day, he said they were thinking like people from Second City would just look down and be like, hey, we need two guys that are funny real quick. And they're just standing outside and they're like, yeah, you two, you'll do. Like, that's how your brain works. Like, I thought like the wrestlers would look out in the crowd and be like, hey, that skinny kid, let's go ahead and get him in here. Yeah, he looks like a star. So they tell that story that's what they thought. But actually, one of the his friend, I guess Bill Murray's brother was there at Second City at the time, and he went and talked to them. Bill Murray's brother, they had went to school together, and so he told them to go to a place called the Improv Olympic to learn. And then Farley went off there, man, and they saw out of the gate, man, that dude. You could see him. You know, we'll talk about his skits, but he may be one of the greatest like physical comedians ever.
Well, he was so big. Like, one thing, he was big, no denying it.
Right.
But he wasn't really that fat. Like,
no, he was a big guy.
No, he was big. He was fat, but he could move. John Goodman was the same way. I don't understand it. Like,
you know what I alluded to, and like Chris can back me up on this. Have you ever seen some of the like NFL centers, some of the, like the people, some of the gigantic? They're just massive. It's like they're so gigantic. They're not. Some of them are fat, but they're just huge. And to be able to move as quickly as they can, it's just, I think it's genetic. Like,
and he played football and stuff in high school. So I mean, he was an athlete, but he always, and this is kind of the downfall, which kind of sucks. And we're all big Farley fans, you know, even bigger Sandler fans. Who Sandler was a very close friend of his, but Farley loved John Belushi. And I hate that like there's so many people that compare these two. Before we get into the episode, I wanted to talk about this. Is like everybody's like, oh no, we're gonna have another John Belushi, and then even like Lorne Michaels is like, Chris, you got to stop drinking.
Dude, Chadwick.
Chris, I think you're doing a little too much off-screen antics, but we calm that down. But we're still going to have you on screen all the time. We're not going to give you time off.
Yeah. We're just going to work you to death.
Well, you can seek help on your own time.
This is work time now.
Yeah, there's a show to put out. But he said
it's almost Wild Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
Oh wait. Was she a great big fat person?
Yeah, it is. It's almost, yeah. Oh, wait. But so he said that Lorne Michaels was like, I don't want to have another John Belushi on my hands. But I didn't see that. Like, reading the book, watching all this Chris Farley movies, interviews, and everything with him, like, John Belushi had something dark in him. Like, there was a darkness to John Belushi. And, like, Chris...
It was his liver.
Yeah, but Chris was like, he seemed just like a big kid, like in all his interviews and all the stuff, like where, you know, he just came across different, not like John Belushi. When they compare the two, I'm like, I don't see that personality comparison.
I don't. I see it not at all. And all you have to do is go and watch any of like the Blues Brothers movies, and you'll see that John Belushi had a natural extroverted personality, and I think Chris Farley was exactly the opposite. Like, you could tell John Belushi was John Belushi when the camera was off.
Right.
Chris Farley, I feel like the camera was on. He was fat, hilarious, character actor Chris Farley, but when it was off. And I'll talk about this later on in one of the skits. I believe his real personality is closer to the Chris Farley show.
Yeah, that's what they said in the book. 100%.
I have no doubt. That's what I believe. And so that's different, because John Belushi was just all in, and he was him. That he was not playing a character. He was himself.
Right.
Kind of like Jack Nicholson in a lot of ways, in my opinion.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
But they're not playing a character. They're just being themselves a lot of times on camera.
Well, let's go ahead and roll into it, man. Leaf, we got a skit breakdown here, so let's just roll through the skit by skit.
one last thing. Of course, he was on Saturday Night Live. His season, he lasted for 5 seasons, from 1990 to 1995. That's the last little.
Damn it!
Was he? So did he leave SNL same time Sandler did?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And
They left.
And by leave, I mean got fired.
Yes. He had some movie deals in the works, and I'm pretty sure they both were let go and not asked to not come back. But we'll get into it a little bit in the episode. I don't want to harp on the negatives, but he's very much in and out of rehab quite a bit. Even while he was on the show, like he was staying at like a halfway house, and then would go be on national fucking TV, and then come back and bunk with.
It's just nuts, man. People like when you think when people generally think about making it, myself included, until you hear stories like this, like you think, man, I made it. Like I'm on Saturday Night Live. Like I'm making bucks. I'm out with starlets.
Did you keep all that down? Did you swallow that?
It's yet to be seen.
But yeah, you're thinking like starlets, everything, right?
Yeah, you're thinking you're the best of the best, man. Now, like you've made it. Like now you got money, you have fame. Like you don't think you're still struggling with like homelessness and all that kind of nonsense and
which it wasn't like it was addiction. It wasn't like homelessness. He had the money and everything, which actually kind of leads me to like shit stuck in my head this week.
And how you doing, little partner?
Fine. And it's little visitor now. Attaboyoli's how you say it in Cherokee.
Oh, well, pardon my French, but I'll be damned.
Walker told me I have AIDS.
I thought we were going to be a downer. You lied, dude. You lied.
Spoiler alert. In The Sixth Sense, the kid was dead the whole time.
This podcast is ruined from the jump, dude. We lost everyone.
You can think, no, this is right up our viewers' alley because that is ripped directly from Conan O'Brien when he used to play Walker Texas Ranger clips, and he would always say that there's one clip they're not going to play, that he finally played it, and it just zooms into his face, and then Conan just walks off the stage.
The Walker Texas Ranger lever. We need to cover that one.
That's Forrest Gump.
Okay, Jenny, and I'll mow the grass and raise the AIDS, baby.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, let's try to bring this one. Let's try to resurrect the corpse of this podcast by going into the SNL skits breakdown from the best of Chris Farley.
Oh. You're going to have to stop that.
Yeah, stop moaning after every skit. You did this yours.
Yeah, we're going to pause for a second, and you're going to get a better drink.
It's fine. This is fine.
It starts out with the annoying senator's nephew, is what I call it. I'm sure it has a different name, but it's basically out of the gate. Classic Chris Farley. I think it's sort of a perfect skit to open up with.
I thought you were the law and order candidate.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Because he's got buck teeth. He himself is the joke. Like on screen, when you're looking at him, you're laughing because he's obviously fat. He's supposed to be a child. He's got a wig. It's a terrible wig on.
This is a parody too of a. There was a press conference where a senator's kid is just all over the fucking place, like climbing on him, like. But then they just replace the kid with like Kevin Nealon's the senator, and then giant Chris Farley is the child.
Wait till that senator becomes president. Let's see what that fucking kid does then.
Yeah,
and so it's the classic. It's like out of the gate, you're already dying laughing. He's like,
live from New York, it's Saturday night.
And they are just like, he is all in, and like that's just the way that he was, man. Like that's the way that he was. Like immediately when he put himself into a character, it was all in. It wasn't a half-assed version of himself. It was just
he was one of the rare ones too that he did write, but he didn't write a lot. He was straight up signed off them sending a scout basically to Second City, and they were like, Tim Meadows also got signed around that same time, but they brought Farley in because of like they were like, holy shit. I think even Lorne Michaels said he was afraid. The only downside they thought was his personality may be too big for TV because he was used to stage acting. But so this next skit that we're going to talk about, the Matt Foley motivational speaker, actually that skit was cultivated at Second City and brought with him to Saturday Night Live.
Really?
Kidding
Yes.
me.
And here's another fun fact about this. The character itself is kind of loosely based around his high school football coach, who they interviewed for the book. I guess he would get down on his haunches and kind of like, get like people all fired up. And the character Matt Foley is actually his friend that's a pastor. So they said like when he's doing the skit and his friend Matt's in the crowd and they were like,
My name is Matt Foley.
he said Matt Foley was just like, oh God, like sitting down in his chair. Little did he know that was going to go on to be one of the most famous skits ever in Saturday Night Live history.
And probably from this list, I'm gonna say it's probably my favorite one.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's not even like the stuff that he's saying. It's not him like crashing through the table. It's simply because that one movement that he does. First off, I was saying earlier, he is fat, but they make him look fatter by the way they dress him.
Yeah,
so,
smaller
like
pants
that,
and stuff.
So that button-up shirt that he's got on, it must have gone to his knees because it was tucked in the whole time, and his belly was like hanging over, but he kept doing that fucking like adjusting his pants,
pulling his pants up like
and
it's
it was just like
down.
it's just like accentuating his belly sticking out there.
That's what he said.
And
They
it
said
was
he
so fucking funny.
Dude, they said he got that from that coach. I guess that coach used to get fired up and get on his haunches. And Farley, they said Farley would be behind him, like mocking him while he's like giving a speech and shit while he's on the football team.
We've all known people like that in high school. That person is Chris.
But also,
unfortunately, the football coach where I went to high school with, he was nicknamed Long Dong Patterson.
In school?
He had. Well, I mean,
I bet that tastes good.
Wrong. We always joked that his wife passed those kids with no problem.
No.
He had an affinity for those coaches' shorts. Remember the old bike?
God,
remember the old bike?
Yeah,
short?
dude. Like the '80s, like like what do you call it? Gym shorts back in the day. Does it still exist?
Short.
They were like basically. They were basically baseball pants, but they were like cut off real short.
Yeah. Okay.
And unfortunately, I saw this.
No.
Yep. In the field house. They had those. They had the trough thing that everybody would piss in.
Oh, damn it!
Oh, dude.
This guy unfolded his dick.
Did he just like roll it out like a fire hose?
Did someone have to break in case of fire? Break glass in case of fire and just roll out?
Fruit roll up, man. Just like,
no!
It was like a dish.
Yeah. So anyway, this is about a motivational.
We can probably cut all that out.
Yeah.
Leave it in. Leave it in.
Just Christina Applegate in this and David Spade, obviously like, Phil Hartman, but like Christina Applegate and David Spade breaking, like you got to think too, like they're around these people, especially Spade, they're around each other all the time. For them to like, they said they did the walkthrough, no problem. They did dress rehearsal and he got a little bit animated, but so he would like save it for show day and then really go over the edge. But you could see Christina Applegate, who also so hot, put her hair over her face because she was like, basically she only had like one line left that was like, he was like, what do you want to do? And he's like,
I want to live in a van down by the river.
And she was like, she said, remember, like I saw an interview with her, she's like, I don't think I'm gonna get it out, because like she just kept putting her hair in front of her face, try not to make eye contact with him because she couldn't keep a straight face.
If I was with Christina Applegate, I don't know about getting it out, but I'd get it in. or die trying.
Yeah.
No, I want to like give props to Christine Applegate in this scene because you're right. These comedians who are professionals who are around him all the time, they're cracking up, and she held it together, possibly the best out of anybody in the skit. Like, she did a really, really good job, man. And it was incredible because and that's another thing, the energy.
Get the world by the tail and wrap it around and pull it down and put it in my pocket.
In that skit, in that room, on the studio where they're doing it live in front of people, it's just so incredibly powerful. Like, you can't not laugh at it. It's insane. Can any one of us make it even through that skit? I couldn't.
No.
How many of those did they do? 'Cause there were a couple of different. I know that
I only saw that one. I know they had to have done it at least 4 or 5 times because I've seen incarnations of them. I saw when they brought him back for the one that he hosted. They did one like where he's in the gym and the bicycle ran through the wall or whatever. But like, I don't. I just even going back and trying to watch episode for episode, I don't remember them overdoing it, which is rare because it almost seemed like when they would find a hit skit, like they just ran that bitch to the ground. Like,
see it constantly. Yeah.
Ooh wee.
What's up with that? What's up with that?
That's one of me and Chris's favorites for no reason. Because if you try to explain,
well, isn't that special?
Yeah, that one too. Yeah, they had
the church lady.
Of those. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to the next skit, which is one of my guilty pleasures, the old Schmidt's Gay Beer with Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, and like I said, the voiceover by Phil Hartman.
This is around the pool, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
and that Farley does that like little wink thing, like after the dudes appear in their thongs and stuff with their Chadwick gym coach packages.
Yeah, they like him and Sandler look at each other and they're both like,
because you don't know where it's gonna go. Like it's just a playoff of, and you could do this in the 90s. Look, it's still fucking funny. I don't care. Like in the 90s, you could be like a beer commercial with a bunch of hot women, and then you just put dudes in it. And it's fucking funny.
It's not only funny, but it's like let's not lie. It's what men like, dude. We like attractive women and we like drinking. Like, that's how you sell your beer. Like, people understood that back then, unlike now when everybody's got eagle eyes on you, for some ridiculous reason. I know it's going to swing back. You guys know it. I know it because it's just funny. It's good.
It's fucking funny.
But you know, the people that have a problem with that are like, I hate to say it, but like less attractive women. And I don't understand why, because the more we drink, the more attractive they seem to us.
Chatty, no.
Maybe we need to explain that too. That maybe that's where the disconnect.
They just don't get it, Chadwick. It's up to you to try to.
Maybe they need a man to explain it. We could call it mansplaining.
Mansplaining. You heard it here first. Be kind. Let's rewind. Mansplaining.
You're a genius.
Trademark. I'm trademarking it right now.
This next skit, right after the Schmidt's Gay, is the Chippendales. Which here's a fact that I found. This was only his 4th episode. So
really?
4th episode in, they're like, hey, strip down. You're going to be dancing with Roadhouse's own Patrick Swayze and his
your gut and your man boobs out.
I think it's ironic that we go from Schmidt's Gay to at least one guy. At least one of these guys dancing was gay.
Yeah. So there is a lot of controversy on this skit. So this skit, if you haven't seen it, yes, this skit, if you haven't seen it, is by the writers, not like in public, but like the people on the show. So this skit is just 2 guys trying out for Chippendales. One of them is Patrick Swayze, and the other one is Chris Farley. So like there's the contrast, and there's Bob Odenkirk, and he's the guy that worked with Norm a whole lot, right? He fucking hated this. And he thought it was lazy, and he said Farley should have never done it because it's just basically a joke on Farley, this whole thing. And he's like, there was no comeuppance at the end. There was no, like, they chose the fat guy over the skinny guy. The whole joke was like, hey, Chris Farley's fat. And then so, like, Jim Downey wrote it. Of course, Jim Downey loved it, thought it was great. I like the skit. I think it's funny, but Odenkirk, who I respect a lot, thinks that this kind of sent Farley on that trajectory of which Farley's talked about a lot. Fatty fall down and people laugh. He would say that a lot.
I would really like to talk to Odenkirk about that if we can get that set up.
Yeah,
yeah. Let's see if we can get him on the podcast. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
I don't know. I tend to. So I really, really, really love this skit. But once you know the fat guy fall down is over, I kind of agree with Odenkirk because the end of the skit just sort of like peters out. There's just nothing really there besides Chris Farley. There's no real joke in there because it ends with some sort of weird Patrick Swayze voiceover.
Even as I stood there listening to them explain why they had chosen me, I still couldn't believe it.
And like in a fake clapter,
right,
where everyone's just like kind of cheering at the end, and it's kind of weird and cringe a little bit to me when I watched it back, but I don't know. So I kind of understand his point a little bit.
I guess you just have to look at it from Farley's perspective. Like, if he didn't care, what does it matter? Like,
no, and that's
he was using his physical attributes for comedy.
No,
which is what he always right.
And I think too that's like looking in hindsight with Odenkirk, and also him knowing Farley and writing for Farley and like that type of humor. Like Farley was special. Like that's he talked about writing these skits and then it just jumping off the page when Farley did it. So
I didn't know that about Odenkirk working so much with Norm.
Yeah, I thought on SNL, right? Wasn't that him?
I'm pretty sure him and Norm were together.
Did he work?
I thought it was Jim Downey that.
Was it Downey? I thought Odenkirk also worked with him on like.
I mean, he may have worked with Jim Downey's the one that was on
Conan, right?
On Conan, yeah.
Yeah. But I thought Odenkirk worked. I could be wrong on that.
Big fan of Odenkirk. Better Call Saul, and then also there's a movie called Nobody. Came out maybe 3 years ago.
That was a good one.
Great movie.
Yeah,
I hope
really
there's a sequel
good
to
that. So that skit basically comes to an end. Leaf, you want to take us over to the next one?
Absolutely, dude. So the next one is one of Chris's favorites, the what I call the annoying wife skit. I'm not sure what the exact name again.
Zagat's episode.
The
I'm sorry, what? I know it's the 90s.
Yeah.
Go back to the 90s, Zagat's.
Thank you. Hey, hold on, let me fix myself. That was just terrible. Give me a second.
So this skit, man, it was basically, I guess there was a book out, the Zagat's book, and it was just restaurant reviews, right?
Yeah.
And they were just cheesy ass reviews. And so Sandler is like the old, like they're old married couple, and Sandler is like over Farley's shit, and Farley's entire like quest in this skit is to make fucking Adam break, and he sure as fuck does. Like,
and he breaks him. Like, he breaks one of the best comedians of that time, maybe ever.
Well, Sandler was like notorious for breaking character. I think that was one of the things that that Lauren didn't like about him.
Yeah. And also like that he drew ratings. I guess Lauren has something against that.
And the
too.
fact, but unfortunately,
I'm tired of getting all these views.
I'm tired of all this money.
Oddly enough, he didn't have a problem with like Jimmy Fallon doing it, who is a quarter of the fucking talent that Sandler has. So, anyways, just want to say that because
that shit though, where he's like, because it's got who else is in this? David Duchovny, right?
Yeah,
like he plays like Farley's sister or whatever. But anyway, he does that, dude.
Forgot about that.
When Farley's in there and he's just like,
Ravioli? Holy cannoli.
And he's laughing. Like he's like, this is what I'm going to talk about later again. But like, he does female characters so well, man. Like, he does them so well because, like, obviously he's a caricature of femininity, right? Like, but there's a lot of women that are just like that. And I know for a fact, and Chris is going to talk about it, like, there's elements, of everybody's girlfriend, of everybody's long-term relationships, of everybody's wives that is in this skit. Like, Farley somehow, better than any character I've ever seen, captures that essence of like annoying, like girlfriend.
Then the show must go on.
Dude, that shit and you always knew that couple too that was like the guy's kind of a dick, like he's just over it. It would be like grandparents or whatever, and then the grandmother is just so invested, like is numb to it. and like just so overly positive.
She just is who she is. She's not changing for him for any reason, and he's just done.
I have an aunt and uncle like that. I mean, they're well into their 70s or 80s now, but they used to argue over like the stupidest shit. Like they were telling me about a restaurant to go when I was working in Dalton to go to for lunch, and they're telling me like what they had, whatever, and then Jack was like, "Yeah, it's only like $5," and Joanne's like, "No, it's $4." And they kept going back and forth. Yeah, they kept going back and forth, and eventually they were both saying that it was $4 and arguing with each other.
Yeah,
like, no, it's $4. No, it's $4.
That was. I tell you what, the one line I used, and I would purposely, if there was somebody we didn't like, especially at the movie theater, is usually be like two guys or two girls that were just really annoying. I would
cup.
Yeah, I would just slide in between them and be like,
I'm in the middle of a moron sandwich.
You're always like, I've got stupid in stereo.
That's it. Yeah,
that's what I used to. I would say.
I've got stupid in stereo.
That shit was so fucking funny.
Everybody loved it. We all thought it was like hilarious because it was so relatable. Like
when we were like, I mean, we watched this some of these live, but like we really caught the wave on the Sandler and the Farley when these DVDs best of started coming out. You could get them for $5 at Walmart. Sweet. When
or
Walmart
was it
used
$4?
And it was $4. And now I'm just too lazy to go find my DVD player, so I just order anything from Amazon.
Yeah, we're same here. We're bad people.
Yeah, we got to the next skit quickly is just a little bit. It's such a funny joke for those in the time period because no one's going to remember it if you're not of our age. So I apologize to any of our younger viewers, but listen. The Wilson Phillips had a fat girl who was like in the band, and the
nominees are
Wilson Phillips for Hold On.
It was a 3-piece, and one of the girls was fat. And bro, Chris Farley obviously is playing the fat one, receiving an award, and there's no joke. He's fat, and he's dressed up as that girl with the other two hot ones on the side, and it's hilarious. When I saw this skit, I was in tears. I had to pause it.
And then they segue right from that. They hit you with the mall girls, the little valley girls, where like him and Sandler and Spade all play girls. And he has that classic line where she's like, "I thought you were on a diet." He's like,
"Lay off me, I'm starving."
Like,
cut it with a fat joke, so I'll sit on you.
Like he swaps from his Valley Girl voice to that big bass drop or whatever. But
is that the same one? Is that the same one with the Baldwin, Alec Baldwin?
In one of those skits, yes. Like
yes.
So they have like a little.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
They have this little montage, basically him playing like these weird characters, and then we go to one of his most iconic, which I forgot who wrote this, but this was the super fans.
The Bears.
An old skit from back in the day. Like this is an old skit.
So they wanted people. Mike Myers, they said, had a solid enough Chicago accent. The writer of the skit wanted it, and Farley obviously grew up in Wisconsin, so they said his was the best. And so they just built this skit around. They used to see these people.
George Wendt was on there
from
too.
Cheers, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
so
he
like
was.
they built this skit around what they saw, like on Football Sunday in like Wisconsin and Chicago and stuff. There'd just be these people that are just it's all Bears.
But that wasn't an original skit though, right? Wasn't that an old skit?
It was.
They added new people to it.
Yes, that was a very old skit with George Wendt was the linchpin in the skit.
Yeah, that actually, this is the one that caught like fire though. This version of it. They said some DJ in Chicago played it so much so they got to go. The Bears paid them to come to the game, and they had one of those fan like kicks the field goal at halftime thing. and then they brought them out to try to kick the field goal, like after the fan I think missed or something, and so Farley like runs and then just does a purposeful trip and head like dive into the mud and misses the ball, and like they had this all the shenanigans. The crowd's like going fucking nuts, like 'cause it's just funny as shit, and like they talked
imagine
about,
if you were there at that game,
you'd get to see that, like just see these legends or whatever. But that's the kind of performer he was, man. He just went out there and gave it all. And but yeah, the Bears. There's several versions of this that continued on. This is where we got earlier in the episode. We talked about
That makes a baker's dozen for me.
the heart attacks.
Yeah, and so you need to watch the skit. It's like explaining it almost ruins it, but there's basically like 4 guys in a pub, and they're drinking and eating the worst foods ever. They're all fat. They're talking about their favorite Chicago sports teams. In this particular skit, in the SNL Best of, Chris Farley has actual special guest Michael Jordan, which he's.
Right after the Bulls won their first title, they brought Jordan on to host Saturday Night Live.
What did they say? They predicted like 8 more?
That's right. We're talking a minimum 8 Pete.
Yeah, then an 8 Pete.
And 8 Pete. They started, they started with 3 Pete, 5 Pete, and they go to like 8 Pete. Yeah. Like these guys are supposed to be like quintessential Chicago Bulls fans, and for some reason, I don't really feel like this skit should be funny to anybody who's not from Chicago, but it just hits so hard. It's just funny. Like and Chris Farley obviously is just the star when they include him in, and that's why I agree with like when Chris said this is the one. Even though this is an older skit from older Saturday Night Lives with George Wendt, like Chris Farley makes it just because he fits perfectly with the group, and of course his physical comedy stands out. When he starts having a heart attack, he's like hitting his chest, but he's doing it like so fast and like hard that like it just interrupts the whole skit.
Yeah, well, the doc says that I got a small piece of Polish sausage lodged in the lining of my heart.
Like when he has the one where he says, they showed a clip of it on a different one where he's like says he's choking, and they give him the Heimlich, and it's like an entire fucking steak that he's got. Like it's like a 16-ounce steak that he was choking on a whole steak or some shit. It's just. It's so funny, man. It's so funny.
Good, dude. It's so good, bro.
So I know I said that Matt Foley was my favorite, but it's actually a tie. Matt Foley had some big laughs in it, but this next one, the Chris Farley show, is just consistent laughing all the way through for me.
And this is what we strived not to be as a podcast, because we've seen so many podcasts that are this, where it's like,
you remember in Something Wild when Melanie Griffith had you handcuffed?
Remember when awesome.
And I actually told when like we started floating the idea of doing this podcast to Shadwick and Chris, I sent them this clip. And I was like, okay, we can do this. We can get together. We can be who we are. We absolutely cannot be the Chris Farley sketch. The introverted guy who's like, you guys remember this thing?
We have scheduled next week a big guest, big for me at least.
For all of us.
And I'm really afraid that I'm going to be.
You remember when?
And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. You remember that?
Yes.
Is that true?
They said that when in his book they said like this was Chris Farley. Like they said like all he was playing himself out there. I mean, obviously I guess a little more nervous or whatever, but he was a huge Beatles fan. And I went back and watched this one, and he's a great actor. But it looks like he's even shaking a little bit on the Paul McCartney one, and I don't know if that's part of the bit or not. But like they said, like that he was so like over the moon that he got to do a skit with Paul McCartney and meet him and everything, because he was such a huge fan. But
so how long was Farley like in the limelight? Like 10 years maybe?
No,
on Saturday Night, he was only on Saturday Night Live for 5 years, and his career didn't. He did a few movies afterwards. Obviously, he had the Beverly Hills Ninja.
Because he passed away. He passed away when I was still in high school.
I mean, Tommy Boy.
Yeah, Tommy Boy, Black Sheep.
Black Sheep,
Dirty Work. He had a little bit role in it.
Yeah, we said Beverly Hills Ninja, maybe.
Beverly Hills Ninja. There was one of them. Yeah, and then he passed away, and then his last movie was the one with the American. It was like a old school. I can't remember exactly what the name of that movie was.
You know, he was going to be Shrek. Like,
there's actually recorded footage of him as Shrek. If I can find it, I'll throw it in here. It's really weird to see.
Why do you want to talk about it?
Why are you answering the question with a question?
Why are you asking questions I don't want to answer?
Why are you blocking?
I'm not blocking.
But you can see it. It's just him playing it straight up, like the innocent voice of Chris Farley.
Yeah. Almost Heroes was like, I think, his last movie. I think he passed away, like, actually after his scenes were filmed or during one or the other. So like, wasn't long.
The point I was trying to make, though, is like 10 years probably he was
maybe
in the public eye or whatever. I would think that seeing like one of your absolute idols like Paul McCartney would still shake you. Like,
oh, for sure, man.
I mean, if you hit it big, do you think it takes a good 10 years for you to not feel like, what is it, imposter syndrome?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure because, again, like they said, he was always paranoid about the fatty fall down, go boom, for laughs. So he was paranoid about that. But, like, he was a good actor. And his comedic timing was, like, insane. Read these skits and without Chris Farley in them, or tell somebody the premise of the skit. It fucking sucks. Like, what?
Yeah, it's not funny.
That's why all the writers, once they found out who Farley was and what he could do, they all wanted him to be the skits they wrote because they knew that he's going to deliver every single time. And the Chris Farley show is just a dude interviewing people that's nervous. And that doesn't sound funny at all, but it is fucking hysterical and one of the best damn skits probably in like all of Saturday Night Live history.
Yeah.
Like just so simple.
Did you see Die Hard?
Yeah. Like his anxiety like actually comes through so hard, and that's the joke. But you notice he still tosses in like the physical comics. He like hits himself when he gets something wrong. He's like and he's like slamming his fist and it's like into his head. It's like so. Every time I'm watching that, I'm just like, stop! You're killing yourself. Like every single time, dude. Like, bro, it's really funny. But like, I agree. Like, I know for a fact, and this is the reason that I don't agree with the John Belushi comparisons that we talked about earlier, is because this was really him. I felt like you could tell.
Yeah.
It was too real. It was too good. And when the cameras are off, I felt like that's the real dude. That's the guy you probably would get.
I felt like Belushi kind of, I don't know, full of himself, overconfident in comparison to Farley. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah, no, you could see the darkness in Belushi's eyes. You just could. Like, not saying he wasn't a good dude. I don't know. I hadn't met any of these motherfuckers, but just off people that I've met in life, Farley had this innocent.
I still hope to, though.
Yeah, one day. Just the childlike wonder in his face and the way like that he just wanted to make people laugh. Where Belushi was also a pretty talented musician, a good singer too, so he could have gone a whole bunch of different routes.
You know what I hate that we missed out on? Honestly, look at Robin Williams and Adam Sandler. Both of them, they're known great comedians, but look at their dramatic roles that they did. There's something about those like ultra funny comedians that can really nail.
Oh yeah, they can really turn it on. Like look when I was reading this book, it blew my mind when they were talking about the writers' room, and it was like Sandler, Spade, and I forgot who else was in there. But I was like, it was Sandler wrote for SNL before he was even like on camera, and that blows my fucking mind. Like, because the first thing you would think of is like, get this guy in front of the fucking camera.
Yeah, I looked at my asshole in the mirror today.
Did you not?
Blew my fucking mind.
That's actually one of the things that like that with Saturday Night Live, because I know obviously they've fallen off tremendously. I don't think anyone could disagree with that. I feel like
they fell to the left. I think.
Yeah. No matter your political leanings, the point is, in my opinion, is that when you look at the older progenitors of like Saturday Night Live, they could do everything. Like
Right.
John Belushi could act, like seriously act, like legitimately act, but he was also a comedian, but he also was an insanely good writer. Like he was also a comedian. Like he could do stand-up comedy. All of these things are not as related as people think that they are. And this man could do them all. And there was a lot of people on Saturday Night Live that had that same ability.
I saw Skit earlier this week. I'd forgotten about you talking about the stuff that they could do back then. Check out the interview with Chevy Chase and Richard Pryor.
Oh, dude, yeah. That's like,
whoa.
Yeah, but it was, everybody was on board with it. It was funny as fuck. And
it's still funny as fuck.
It's still funny as fuck. And I think, like, not to disparage, like, a lot of the cast of the current show, because I don't really watch a lot of it, but there are talented people on there that can sing, that can dance, and can do all that stuff. But I think now we've fallen into the certain things you do now are just going to get you social media clicks and get the, oh, girl, I can't believe you said that, and like that kind of shit where it's like, it's just low-hanging fruit. And there's not just, us talking about it, but like other people that are experienced writers and have been in the business for their entire lives are saying, hey, that's lazy comedy.
Yeah. And I do wonder sometimes, especially with the newer casts, like not being as good. In my personal opinion, it's not that they're untalented by any stretch of the imagination. I wonder if it's not that they would just be better writers rather than actors, or better actors than they would be writers, right?
Well, and also, like, how sought after is that gig now? That's a shitty gig to have.
Yeah,
that's a high stress gig.
If you ever listen to Fly on the Wall with David Spade and Danny Carvey, like they talk about how just how stressful it was.
Yeah,
like they had to be in there, like turn in skits by certain times.
Dude, you just don't leave the office. And, like you're there all fucking time, and like
it's. And I don't know. I don't remember where I heard this, but it was David Spade talking about Chris Farley. Like how they would be in the writer's room and they would he'd have his head down. He's like trying to come up with stuff, whatever. Because I think a lot of them were writers before they were on screen.
Yeah.
But he's writing and like over his shoulder, Farley's going, Davey, and he's like, Chris, I've got to work. Like it better not be Fat Man in a Little Coat. And it's like, Davey, it better not be Fat Man in a Little Coat. It's not. And he turns around and he's like, Fat Man in a Little Coat.
Which, fast forward, that becomes one of the most memorable lines from that fucking movie, and that's just comedic genius. That's just
it's funny any way you slice it. And I think that just shows Chris Farley's you could set him apart from some of the other cast because the comedic spirit was like in him to the degree he was just a natural. I feel like that's so rare even to this very day. Man.
So who was closer, David Spade and Farley or Sandler and Farley?
I think Sandler was towards the end because I think Spade and Farley kind of had a falling out. I think they made up before he passed. Yeah, there was a girl involved, at least in the book. And anyway, don't want to get into all that. But yeah, I think that Sandler always – I think the problem was for a lot of his friends is they just saw the runaway train happening and, like, there's nothing you can – I mean, what can you do, right? Like, if you're – we have free will here, right? So if you don't want to go get help for your problem, you're not going to get help.
I think it was just during the montage of clips. There's the one where Farley is he getting on a spaceship or something?
Oh, with
and
Deion Sanders is on there and his pants fall down. Yeah.
And then you get Dennis Miller going, did I just see the new guy's asshole?
Yeah.
Dude,
Farley,
I'm not hygienic. I don't wipe properly.
May not have ever kissed a girl. He may not.
Dude, that shit, that was funny as hell too.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's him. Who's he playing? Bennett Brower.
Yeah, his name was Bennett Brower was the name of his character. Like just the news reporter. Like, immediately
eat my own dandruff.
Yeah.
And then like the characters he played were insane. And
I may not own a toothbrush.
Yeah.
He had so many insanely good characters. And then the next, you just get this montage of his physical comedy on this special. Basically, him just falling down and acting out.
Yeah, which is great. And then that leads to what I believe is my favorite skit. Shout out to Gibbs. Gibbs, on our Discord, be sure to check it out. We actually posed the question, everybody's favorite skits. Phil, shout out Phil. Phil's was the Swayze skit.
Excellent.
This one is mine, and it's probably one of those skits too that me and Gibbs used to watch together all the time. But it's one of those hidden camera shows where they used to. For those who don't know, there's this decaf commercial where they we swapped their regular coffee with decaf, and they the thing is people couldn't tell because it was so good, right?
Yeah.
And then they tell him, they're like, "What if I told you we swapped it with decaf?" And he's like,
What?
And then he just slowly he's like,
What? You son of a bitch.
Goes absolutely ham.
Son of a bitch.
That's it.
You know what's my favorite part? One of my okay, so full disclosure, that's actually almost my favorite skit. Almost.
Yeah.
It's so close because I love it too. One of my favorite part of that actually is his wife grabbing onto him. At one point in time, he smacks her away. But by the end, when they're screaming and they're knocking him out, she's like, ah! Ah! like holding on to him and screeching. That makes you laugh to death every time, dude. His wife trying to calm him down because it's
they're hitting him. They're hitting him with a fucking frying pan.
Yeah, so 53 minutes and about 40 seconds is where Leaf screams. Just jot that down for short.
Clip it.
But also, I think that skit though is just one of my fucking favorites, and it's a stupid idea, but it's executed so it just goes we used to always love those skits, right, where shit just goes completely off the rails,
and his mentality in that skit is why I can't watch youth basketball.
Understood. It's a beautiful skit. It's absolutely beautiful. It's sketch comedy at its finest,
dude. It is.
It's short. It's sweet. It's not complicated, and it's just funny, all around. And of course, he makes the entire skit his own. You couldn't replace him with anybody else. You just couldn't.
That shit is great, and this leads over to a clip. If you're a faithful listener of the show, you've seen several times the Chris Farley as Dom DeLuise laughing so hard that he pisses his pants.
He urinates himself.
And I want to know, did he really piss himself, or was that a prop?
It had to be a prop, because I went back and looked again. That would have been a lot of piss.
Yeah.
Hope you had a hell of a piss, Arnold.
It was too quick for him to have pissed himself unless he was just
held
hammered.
it. Yeah.
And
you're a wicked pisser.
You're a wicked pisser. The Rock's always had good aim.
Let's also give a shout out to Dana Carvey as Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Insanely good impression. And of
Phil
course,
Hartman. Yeah.
Phil Hartman is Burt Reynolds, who I want to do.
That's
personally
wild and crazy stuff.
Weird, wild stuff.
Yeah, for those of you who even remember Johnny Carson, I want to do a Phil Hartman episode.
Oh, dude, yeah.
He is
just what a fucking legend.
An absolute underrated legend, which a lot of younger people don't know, but would when we dive deep into him personally. Besides the Saturday Night Live skits, this man was literally everywhere. He was 100%. A lot of people's childhoods, whether you realize it or not. He was everywhere.
Starting Jingle All the Way.
Is his wife still alive?
I hope not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think she took her life as well.
Did she? Okay.
Yeah. She's good. Very excellent.
The next skit
is then I don't have to do it.
Yeah. The next skit is the Tom Arnold one.
It's important.
How fucking on point is that
this
impression?
Is so important because this is one where anyone who's Chris Farley fall down is all Chris Farley has, which we've already, I'm pretty sure, destroyed that myth. This right here is super important to me because Chadwick nailed it on the head. His impression of coked out Tom Arnold, which let's all be real. This dude is on cocaine in its purest form. And Chris Farley does an impression of him, and with Roseanne Barr played by
it's
Victoria Jackson.
But so this skit is the reason him and Tom Arnold were friends. Tom Arnold saw this skit, thought it was fucking hilarious.
Yes.
Wanted to meet him, and they actually formed like a bond and a really good friendship. Tom Arnold's on a lot of those documentaries that are on Chris Farley, even to this day, like talking fondly about him.
See, kids, you learn stuff on podcasts. I didn't know that.
You do.
Yeah.
You absolutely
This
do.
is what happens when you sit in your basement and watch documentaries all the time.
It absolutely 100% was Victoria Jackson. You guys can suck my dick. I did my research. It was Victoria Jackson Rosenbar, and also
can we just accept the fact?
Yeah, do we have to do the second part?
She did a good job.
I'm not
She
saying
did.
dick. That's like 100%.
It's like 100%. Yeah, she did a great job. She did a great job as Roseanne.
Yes, but his impression. Actually, to me, of Tom Arnold, for those of you who remember Tom Arnold when Tom Arnold was Tom Arnold, is so flawless and so funny.
Especially back then when he was like camera starved Tom Arnold, like where he was like really like when the camera was on, he was like annoying. Like, you know.
Was this around the time of True Lies, maybe? With Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, probably, because it had to be in that window.
He had some zingers in that movie too, like Elijah Dushku. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Like she's about to get on the motorcycle with her boyfriend, and she's got that big helmet on. He goes, "I remember the first time I got shot out of a cannon." Then he's talking about his ex-wife. Like it's like she took the ice cube trays out of the freezer. What kind of a sick bitch takes the ice cube trays out of the freezer?
And Chris Farley played the perfect Tom Arnold, who was more coked out before Quentin Tarantino ever touched the stuff.
Yeah,
I tell you, like he was in it.
Yeah, he did a better Tom Arnold impression than Tom Arnold did.
He did, yeah. They should have cast him as Tom Arnold.
And like maybe Tom went to a drug clinic, you know?
I got in the taxi and went to treatment.
Yeah.
So good, and it was so good they brought him back later on, like him and they interviewed him, I believe it was on the news segment or other skits. And it was like, at one point in time, they're rolling, him and Victoria are rolling around, they're like making out, and it's like and his wig falls off, and he's just got like a
sideways,
bald cap. Which happens a lot with his physical comedy. Like his makeup and his wig and his outfits don't stay on him, which is intentional. It happens in the Hurly He Boy, which you're going to talk about in a little bit. Like it's just
it happens with Michael Keaton.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, with Michael Keaton.
Do they always put on a bald cap before they put on a wig?
I assume. I think that helps pat like or keep your regular hair down so the wig actually fits.
Right. The idea is you're fitted with the bald cap if you have hair, and then the glue from the wig goes on the bald cap so that it looks seamless, because you don't want you have your regular hair shifting or sticking out, because the bald cap the wig might shift a little bit, but the bald cap's supposed to make sure that it's still. But Farley was so animated, it didn't matter, dude.
I don't know. I just assumed that instead of a bald cap, they just put on one of those like lunch lady net things,
like hair nets.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to glue it though at that point.
Lunch lady land.
Which we'll just skip to that one, man, because the lunch lady land, which in our Discord chat, Eli, this was one of his favorite skits. Lunch Lady Land, Adam Sandler, and I think this was like a last minute idea for Farley to dance as the lunch lady. I don't think this was like originally. I think it was just kind of an idea that got floated out there, and they're like, "Let's do it. Like, let Farley be Farley." And
and it's like it's kind of a slower song, so it's almost like interpretive dance. Like
No, it is
like you could just imagine any second he's going to like pull a string and water's going to splash down on him or something.
I actually like don't think this is a very funny song. Every time I listen to it, like I would generally I skip it. It's like a one and done kind of thing for me personally.
Right. Yeah.
It's a funny kind of callback. Like Adam Sandler wrote a lot of songs, like a bunch of songs. This one, even though it was really popular, like to me doesn't. If you listen to it, it's not like a hilarious like song that I would listen to over and over again. However, Chris Farley, I think, made this throwaway song, which in my opinion was not that funny. is just kind of a chuckle-worthy thing written by Adam Sandler. Legendary, because I can't listen to it without seeing Chris Farley.
Yeah, same here.
Yes, that
Hoagies and grinders. Hoagies and grinders.
Thinking with Sandler and his like face like at each other, you can see like I don't know, that moment there is like just two friends having fucking fun, man. It's awesome,
dude.
So that they actually, I think Norm's in that skit too in the background, and
I believe so. Yeah,
I think he's the green bean. This next one is the one with Michael Keaton in it.
This one was crazy.
Yeah, this one is it's a little off the wall, and this one is a lot of physical humor. And this also has the wig thing that we were talking about. But Adam Sandler playing that. As I've gotten older and my relatives have gotten older, boy, do I start to relate with this one, where they go ask you to go do something, and then you go do it, and then, no, that's not what they wanted you to do. And then
As soon as she is of age, I'm putting her in a home.
it's what this whole skit is he's trying to protect his, like, it's his grandma, right? Like, or his mom, or I can't remember.
I think it's his mother, but like she's elderly or older.
And so somebody's trying to scam her, and so he's like trying to prevent her from scamming her. And then Michael Keaton's like,
Please give me my money! My money!
and he like trying to score with some chick, and then like he keeps getting interrupted, and he just comes out and beats the shit out of him throughout the episode. Like,
does he?
And he comes out with those like leopard print like Speedos.
It's so nasty, dude. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, does he stiff Chris Farley in this?
I think so. He got pretty close.
Chris, please explain for those who don't know what I'm talking about.
So
like,
we talk about it in wrestling.
Yes,
but a lot of times guys will you'll hit each other for real. Sometimes you'll just have this. Either you'll get too excited and you'll throw a punch and it'll actually connect. Or sometimes guys will just be crazy and they'll be like, just fucking hit me for real, make it look good. And this, I think, got a little excited. Also, Farley jerked and moved so much. So if you were going to throw a punch and he's going to be jerking and moving towards you, then you are going to knock the shit out of him. So, but either way, it looked hilarious. And he's like falling, and then Sandler's trying to make him like get this plate that's like on the wall.
Please more!
I'll tell you what, Farley grabbing curtains and them falling off real quick is funny as fuck. I don't know why. I haven't seen that. Like, I don't know if I've seen it since, but that shit, because you're grabbing to hold on to something when you fall, and it just rips the fucking curtains off every time. I don't know why. That's so funny, man.
He's screaming and thrashing around. It's just like, it's just not physical comedy like that. And you could even go back like to the physical comedy greats like the Three Stooges. Like they're the, sort of the progenitors of a lot of the physical comedy on film, film, obviously. And dude, Chris Farley just masters it. It's just, you cannot laugh when you see him falling, man.
Yeah, dude, like,
and you even feel bad, man, about it. Like, I'm like, he's probably hurt. Like in the first scene we talked about where he falls like on which you obviously like, we didn't talk about it, but he like in the Matt Foley skit, the very first one, he falls on the table and it wasn't actually planned.
Right. It wasn't
for
a prop
him to
table.
It was and you could see David Spade stand up to try to help him very briefly. Like for a second, David Spade's like, "Oh my god!" Like, but then he sits back down and is like, "Okay, we're gonna keep going." And Chris Farley acts like it doesn't even happen. Like this scene is uninterrupted because he's like, "I'm in control. Genius. Like I did this. It was funny because I wanted to do it. It doesn't matter if it was planned." And you could tell in future Matt Foley skits and this one as well. They let him play into it. They're like, let Chris Farley be Chris Farley. And it's never not funny. It's so good. He's flawless.
Leaf, do you want to lead us into this next one? Which this one ranks up with me too.
This is my favorite. And I will post it. I will be posting it in the Discord shortly after this episode is done filming the Japanese game show.
ただいま東京からクイズキングズでございます。ホストは中台敏郎さん。
The setup. We just watched this last night.
The setup.
I had to refamiliarize myself with all these, and my wife was like, So do all these other people speak Japanese?
No, they do not.
They do
It's
not.
okay. Chris Farley, the setup is Chris Farley plays basically a clueless Americans from somewhere like middle America. He's basically playing a Wisconsinner, something akin to Matt Foley, just an average working class American who's gone on vacation to Japan and somehow erroneously ended up on a Japanese game show, a fucked up Japanese game show.
Erroneous.
It stars Mike Myers as the Japanese game show host.
Oh, domo domo.
Janine Garofalo is in this as well.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was her.
Yeah.
Dude, yes. She is really, really, really young. And of course, a pre-murder Alec Baldwin who is extremely young.
Allegedly, that's Italy.
Dude, this skit cannot start playing without me starting to laugh immediately because I know what's coming. I absolutely, and if it,
the first when they get to the they're introducing or whatever, and he's like saying he doesn't know what he's there, and then I guess is it Janine Garofalo that misses the first one, and then she cuts her fucking finger off.
It's okay. So that's the
no. There's a guy. Alec Baldwin. He does
cuts
it first.
Off first.
Alec Baldwin does. Yeah,
all
and
calm too. Like,
yeah, like the questions are. That's the greatest part about this sketch is that Chris Farley fumbles his way through the answers. Like he just sort of repeats after what the Japanese people are saying, and he gets it right. That's the first question, and so like nothing happens. But the second time, the question is like whether they're like it's like the monster's like Kagamusha or Godzilla, and the other two get it wrong, and they have to cut off their pinky. And like Alec Baldwin is just like,
"Tondemo gozaimasen."
He's like cutting his finger off, dude. Like every single time, it makes me laugh. And it's somewhat. I finally got the opportunity to go to Japan. That makes the skit
even funnier,
much funnier. Because let me tell you the truth, like I don't know if I need to find out if Mike Myers has ever been to Japan because even in Wayne's World, he spoke Japanese.
He does,
and he does a flawless Japanese person or game show host. Janine Garofalo is also excellent.
Hey,
and so is Alec Baldwin.
All they have to do is speak at you, not to,
that's true.
Yeah,
not to you.
They speak at you, but at the same time, it's like they're joyous. Like
Nico.
And Chris nails it at the end. Chris Farley basically almost wins the whole thing, but then they're like hooking up electrodes to his balls at the very end. And it's a play.
It's like battery cables.
Yeah, whoever wrote the skit is a genius because it's a play on Japanese game shows that are legitimately messed up as it is. They do all kinds of crazy stuff. There's ones where like they'll play pranks on people. Like one of them that's my favorite is like they'll lead a Japanese person unwittingly into an elevator and they just drop the floor out, and like as they're screaming they'll like film them slow motion like thinking they're gonna die. You see their faces like it's horrific. It's like, absolutely horrific, the shit that they do in Japanese game shows.
It's like Hans Booby.
Yeah, White Knight. It was, dude.
Like they're doing all kinds of crazy.
I've seen those too. They'll do the shit where it's like they'll scare the fuck out of somebody with like they'll have like a life size like dinosaur like run in the area, and those people are like an alien, and they're trying to like run the fuck
Godzilla.
out. Yeah.
Oh, it's even worse than that. There's one you can find the memes of it where there's a cockroach in a tube, and both people are blowing on the end, and one of them is gonna get a cockroach in their mouth, dude. That's like it's messed up.
Quacky Serpi Niku.
So it's a completely messed up show, and Chris Farley makes the skit because he has no idea what's going on, and you identify with him so hard because everybody speaks Japanese but him. Right. They're supposed to be Japanese. Alec Baldwin, Janine Garofalo, everyone.
This is also another example of the fatty fall down myth busted. Like his acting, and his reactions to all of this make this fucking skit. Like, it's so good.
You feel sorry for him in this skit, but it's still you're laughing because it's so messed up. Because like you could see the stakes are higher than he originally thought. Like that's what's so great about it is the skit escalates perfectly. Like he wins the first round, the second round he wins by accident, and he's terrified because he realizes people are cutting their body parts off, and he goes to the final round and he's excited, right? Because he's won the second round and they're hooking electrodes up to his nuts.
Excuse me, I won. What the heck are you doing here? Hey, just a second.
And you can see the horror, and like you're like, oh my god, like I can't believe this is happening. And of course, the climax is he loses because he off, like Chris says, he's off a syllable, man.
Yes. Kwaki Serpiniku.
Yeah,
he's off a syllable. It's so sad.
Yeah, it cuts over the judges, and they're like looking back and forth. They're like,
they're. And he gets electrocuted, so the physical comedies, he's getting his nuts electrocuted, and he's thrashing and screaming. And it's just, and everybody else is like, bye, and they're waving like the rest of the contestants. It's just a flawless skit, man. I can't not watch that enough. It's beautiful, it's perfect, and Chris Farley is better than good in that skit. It is, to me, that's the legendary skit, bro.
So I want to swap these last two, and we'll end with number 20. The 21, the joke was pretty shallow on this one. But if you guys ever saw the Cher focus on beauty thing, like it's just him playing like Fat Lori Davis selling hair care products or whatever. Yeah, which they were just making. Which actually, Christina Applegate Cher is pretty fucking solid. Like she did a pretty good job on this. But
she does that like that lisp thing.
Yeah, she does it like the thing with her mouth or whatever. Which also, I mean, it's hard to believe. Like she was just a guest. Like she's not a cast member. She was able to just pull that shit out of her ass.
She was so good. And this goes to me. This goes back.
I like when Christina Applegate does things with her mouth.
All right. To me, this
terrific.
Okay, I think the actual problem with this skit is that it relies too heavily on Chris Farley being hilarious in feminine garb and makeup. Yeah. Like I think it relies too, and it is. I get why they did it because, like I said before, he's probably one of the funniest like men dressed up like a female actors you could ever in a comedic session you could ever get. Like he's so good, and he tries to carry the skit, and it is kind of funny because it's a play on women and their beauty product shows. And
which used to be every Saturday. Like they would be on every fucking Saturday.
For those of you who remember.
Even our girl Cindy Crawford did that for a long time.
Yeah, for a very long time.
Absolutely did. So I think this is a period piece because these shows are kind of like dead now. And so you're going to miss the humor. And it's sort of subtle, and I agree with both of y'all. Like so, it's not.
We'll bring it home with this one that's also near and dear to our podcast because sponsor our podcast. The Hurly Boy, which is a skit, which in your notes here, it's funny because it basically just says, what is this skit with a question mark? Because again, this is one of those on paper. This is not, it's not funny on paper, but when Sandler and Farley do this and Farley's reactions are so like slowly build to the end of this skit where he's mad.
He's a clean boy. Wash your own damn sheets! For God's sakes!
Is it?
For the love of God!
Yeah.
I was actually watching this with my wife. Like she was playing on her computer. She was on her computer, and I was like working on the notes and everything. And I didn't have a headset on, and this was playing. And she was laughing. She was laughing at both like Sandler and the setup. Right, which is what it really is. It's about the setup, like the semi-serious. Like you're laughing at Sandler because he's wearing a wig. He's really pathetic and goofy, so that's kind of funny. But then the punchline is Chris Farley, and it just goes back and forth.
Yeah, it's the contrast because Sandler is like so soft-spoken.
Well, he's basically that's where the Water Boy pretty much had.
Yeah, he's almost like begging, like.
Let me sleep in your bed. Don't shake your head, no.
Yeah.
And then Farley just comes in with that, like, bolstering, like...
Sweet mother of God, what is the holdup?
You mentioned earlier, Shagwick. He has that wig.
Yeah.
And he's
It's going crazy.
Phoenix sweater. It doesn't fall off, but at the very end, he thrashes and it does shift forward a little bit. He's just, he's just a king, man. At the physical comedy.
Yeah, dude. This is the last one we'll talk about from this. And we all kind of gave our favorites, but I think I'm going to change mine. I think I'm going to go with the Japanese game show now as my favorite skit after talking to you guys. I forgot. I went back and watched it. I don't know, man. That shit is so fucking funny to me that just anytime, again, it's kind of like the coffee one where shit just goes off the rails. Like, I love those skits where it like starts off as something and then it just turns into something crazy. Shadwick, what do you want to say? Hold on,
before Shadwick goes, let me interject because that's also my favorite skit.
Okay,
let Shadwick end it because, brother, I 100% agree with you, man. Like that is it's well written, it's well acted. Everybody in there does an exceptional job, and let me just say, as someone who's been to Japan and seen the culture and seen the people watch those weird television shows, like it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And adding Chris Farley into the mix, where he's just this clueless poor bastard. It's a horror show as much as it is funny, and it's funny on like multiple levels, dude. I love that skit. So like Shadwick can bring it home.
Yeah. So this is actually kind of out of character for me because I usually don't like awkwardness, like Ben Stiller movies. A lot of times, I kind of just
cringe you.
I think it's because maybe I identify with the character too much. Like, but the Chris Farley show, like, with him just being so like starstruck and it's just consistently funny all the way through. Because he asks like the craziest questions, like
none of them pertain to like they're either softballs or they're like don't pertain at all to the person.
Like is it what's his name, Jeff Daniels?
Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, he's talking about being in a movie with Demi Moore, and he goes, Demi Moore, she's married to Bruce Willis. Did you ever see Die Hard?
Just like derails.
And then he starts like talking about scenes out of Die Hard.
I can't explain to you how much of a nightmare scenario that is. I never want this podcast to devolve into that skit because because Shadwick's right. It sticks out in my mind. It's just this epic character that is so legit, and it's fun. He's right. It's funny all the way through, and it's a nightmare. You watch so many podcasts, and that's what they're all about. But not here.
Not here, man. So with that, guys, I think that was a pretty good tribute. Chris, cheers, brother.
My wife just sent this to me. I don't know if you guys can see this.
I'll have to put it in post.
Is that Deadpool?
He's just fornicating his finger. Okay, so Shadwick's got to go, and
I gotta go put a dent in that.
With that, guys, we'll lead you over to our Norm Macdonald clip of the week.
Yeah, well, things could be worse, you know. I could have got my nose bit off by a Saigon whore.
You bastard!
Hey, I'm just messing with you, Jimmy. I saw you down there. Hey, Mazzetti, get Jimmy a beer on me.
Okay. Sorry.